Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome to another card guide and review. And this episode's card is none other than Traitor's Touch, a 7-point corruption card that has a killer passive ability that does a percentage of the enemy player's current health on every basic attack. Now there's a lot to discuss about this card, so let's dive into it. Alright, so first off, Traitor's Touch is a 7-point corruption card and can be used on any hero who shares the corruption affinity. It is of the uncommon rarity, so technically it should be easier to get than other rare or epic rare cards. Personally, I have 4 of them, but I bet there are a lot of you out there who don't have one, and that kind of sucks. But it does have 3 upgrade slots for things like lifesteal and cooldown reduction, and that's interesting, but what's even more interesting is its passive ability. And this is what's going to make or break the card for you. The unique passive is basic attacks on players deal 3% of their current health as additional physical damage. Now this is really interesting because you can be playing somebody like Grimex and be doing a lot of energy damage, but you'll be shredding away enemies' health in physical damage. So you're doing 2 types of damage at once. So say if they don't build physical armor, then that percentage-based physical damage is going to hit them even harder. But that's the thing, is that this physical damage, I've done some testing, does in fact seem to be reduced by armor. Which means if you're going to go up against somebody who has 200 plus physical armor and you don't have any penetration, then it's not really going to hit all that hard at all. And so instead of doing 3% of their current health, it'll feel like you're doing more like 1 or 2% at most. And that's another thing. It's based off of their current health. So if they are at 100% health, your first basic attack on them will do that full 3% in physical damage. Once you get them down to, say, 500 health, then 3% of that is much, much lower. But you can look at it as if you're doing part of their maximum health. When they are at 100% health, you're doing 3%, right? When they are at 50% health, that's going to be half of the 3% that you're doing. You're going to be doing 1.5% of their overall maximum health, right? And you can use this to kind of calculate how much you might be doing before armor takes it into effect. And once you get them down to, say, a third of their health, you're going to be doing only 1% and so on and so forth. So if you've been fighting an enemy and you get them down to 500 health or 100 health even, then you're going to be doing literally damage in the single digits because 3% of 100 is like 3. And then after armor, it's probably going to be like 1 or 2. Even at 500, you'd be lucky to be getting like 10. But when they're at full health, that number is going to be more like 50 to 100, depending on just how much maximum health they actually have. Because if they have like 4,000 or 5,000 health, and you hit them with this card, 3% of 5,000 is a lot. Not something that I mathed out beforehand, but trust me, it's pretty substantial. And if you have a fast attack speed, you know, that's like 3%, 3%, 2.9, 2.9, 2.8, 2.8, you know, and that just keeps going down and down as you get their health down. But it's definitely a great card to soften up targets. Not so great for finishing, but then again, you're going to want to be playing somebody who's damaging anyway, so that you can just finish them normally, you know, via your attacks or your ultimate or what have you. But it's a great at picking away tanks, and it's the only card in my mind in Paragon that does such a job of really chunking down tanks. And I know other games like League of Legends or Dota have these specific cards that shred a percentage of maximum health on hit, and that's kind of where the fatal flaw of this card is that it's not maximum health, it's current health. Now, this could have been fixed or made a little bit more pleasant to use if it was, say, instead of physical damage, it was true damage and it couldn't be ignored by armor. Then I could see this being a bit more useful and a bit more universally wanted on really any carry or any ranger whose job it is to just wipe everyone out, right? Because right now, in this current meta, health is a big thing. People stack the shit out of health. And this should technically be the perfect card to counteract such a meta, but it's not, because it takes into account physical armor. And because it's a corruption card, you don't really have many options of where you can use this on particular heroes. Like, I can't use this on Sparrow. I can't use this on Twin Blast unless his second affinity is corruption. I could use it on somebody like Grux, and while I didn't try that for the purposes of this video, because I wanted to use it on a ranger since it's a lot more effective, since you can just attack people at range and kind of be a lot more safe, I just didn't really see the point of it, given that everything about this game is going to change so dramatically in the next couple of weeks, that honestly I might have to just redo this video sometime later once Monolith comes out, because I'm sure almost everything about this card, about damage itself, is going to change, because instead of physical or energy damage, we're getting basic or ability damage, and so there's a very good chance that a lot of cards, this one included, will change, and thus any definitive thing that I say now likely won't matter by that time. But that's okay, because I wanted to talk about it anyway, and I think the card is interesting, and I think it has potential, and I want people to know that, so that people can get in the mindset that, hey, this card needs to be better. And another one of its flaws, like I said earlier, is that it's corruption, so you can really only use it on certain heroes. And this makes wanting to use it on essential, rangers like Twin Blast or Sparrow or Murdoch impossible to use. Like, you can really only use it on Grimex, which is just kind of dumb, because cards like this, items like this in MOBAs, need to be a lot more universal, need to be able to be used by pretty much anybody, because it can be that powerful, it can really be that helpful in combating such a meta like this, such a health meta. And I'm sure Monolith really won't have this kind of health meta problem, so this whole argument may be irrelevant in the future. But I know for now, this could have been a lot more helpful, because honestly, I don't see myself using this card over just building more damage or even more crit. Maybe not right now, because crit's poop, but in the past, crit was definitely better. And that's another thing. This card gives you the ability to put lifesteal and cooldown reduction into it. So technically, this card could be a two-purpose card. One, it can be used to shred heroes who have a ton of health, and thus really increase your damage. And two, it can give you the sustain and survivability that you may need depending on the hero that you're playing, and they may not have any built-in innate survivability whatsoever. So somebody like Grimex, who doesn't really have that, I can put lifesteal on this card and get, like 15, 17% lifesteal and heal for 50 plus health every hit. And that's really great, accompanied by high amounts of attack speed. So you're just bam, 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 just every hit is reducing their health by a pretty decent percentage, by a pretty good chunk of actual damage, and you're healing on top of that. That's a pretty good twofold card, but it's just too limiting. And another thing that limits it is the fact that it costs 7 points to use right out of the gate. And I know some people would buy this card and not really even bother putting any lifesteal or any cooldown reduction into it because it costs that much. But allow me to break it down really quick. This card uses the Corruption Affinity. What do I think of that? I think it's too limiting, and it should be universal. It should be able to be used on anybody who sees fit, because there are heroes in this game, people like Rampage, or really anybody that builds an inordinate amount of health, that this card could effectively counter. And that could have been very useful this whole time while we were waiting for Monolith updates. Traitor's Touch costs 7 points. Is that worthwhile? Again, it's kind of subjective. Some people may say yes, some people may say no, given what they socket into it. For me, I socket up to 5 points of lifesteal into it, just for that little bit of survivability, so that I can heal myself after a fight, or keep myself alive a little bit in fights. But given the fact that would make this whole card 12 points in total, I feel that if I got a regular 3-point equipment card and then socketed 3-point upgrade cards into it, I would ultimately be better off for it, because that's just a lot more raw damage, and that same raw damage or penetration or attack speed or whatever is going to be useful at every single percentage of the enemy's maximum health, not just the higher ranges of health. Because once you get below the enemy's 50% health marker, the damage just starts cutting off aggressively and becomes nearly useless. And that ties into the passive perfectly. What do I think of that? It's great for taking somebody super tanky and getting them to low health, but once you have gotten them to that low health, there's really not much of a benefit once they're that low. It's not really going to help you finish off people, it's just going to help you soften them up. And as somebody who needs kills, like a ranger or what have you, you're going to want to be able to get those kills, and this card isn't going to help you do that. I mean, it will help you kill people, right? But it's not going to get you those kills. It's not going to help you get those last hits over somebody else like a Grux or a Chimera, or really anybody doing any sort of burst damage. That's what I'm trying to say here. And overall, I feel this card was just one or two things shy of being in the right spot. For example, if its damage was true damage and ignored armor, or if the fact that it was maximum health instead of current health, or the fact that it was universal, or the fact that it could have cost less CP-wise to use, or that its passive stats were something different. If really any of those things were tweaked, this card, in my eyes, would be usable right now, here and now in this meta. But adding up all of those little negatives puts it in a spot where I personally wouldn't use it over something that just gives me raw damage on any hero that I want for less of the price, you know. But this card going forward has some major potential in the new Monolith update, in the new map, in the whole new meta, in the whole new overhaul that's coming. Massive potential. I'd love to see what changes they might be making to this card, because it could be something, it could be a staple of every Rangers or Fighters build who want to reliably take down the healthiest of heroes, and I'm looking forward to what the devs have in store for all of us. And if you guys have any requests for any cards that you would like me to make a guide of and or review, in the meantime, you're welcome to let me know in the comments down below. Also, let me know what you thought of this video. Let me know what you think of this card. Is this a card that you're going to avoid after watching this video, or are you still going to use the card, or at least try to make it work somehow in your builds? Let me know if you do, and let me know how that works out. I'd like to know. Educate me a little bit, right? But if you enjoyed the video, slap that like button. I'd greatly appreciate it. It helps out my channel in more ways than one. If you haven't subscribed already, then now is a great time to do so. I make content like this on the regular, both educational content as well as like opinionated, kind of angry, ranting content as well, because I'm an opinionated person, and that's the kind of channel this is. Well, either way, I appreciate your viewership, and I'll catch you next time.